அவனை இதனால் இவன் முடிக்கும் என்றாய்ந்து அதனை அவன் கண் விட.
Okay, students, good afternoon. We will go ahead with the system of particles, part 3 today. Okay. Regarding this, previously we have already come across the perpendicular axis theorem. Now we will go for the parallel axis theorem. Right. We will continue the yesterday's thing what we have done in the last class. We come across the perpendicular axis theorem. This is the theorem which is connecting the moment of inertia about different axes, right? What is the perpendicular axis theorem says? The moment of inertia of any plane rigid lamina about an axis passing perpendicular to its plane is equal to the sum of the moments of inertia about two perpendicular axes in the plane and perpendicular to the first axis. That is, this is the x-axis and y-axis are passing through the plane and z-axis is perpendicular to the plane. Then the entire statement of the perpendicular axis theorem can be explained as Iz equal to Ix plus Iy. Okay. Now we will proceed with the parallel axis theorem today. Okay. What is the parallel axis theorem says? Right. We go for parallel axis theorem. Parallel axis theorem. If you consider any rigid body, you consider, right? The rigid body is somehow like this. I am taking into consideration. For this rigid body, let me consider 2 points. This is a rigid body, and for this rigid body, one is the center of mass. I am representing the center of mass here, and this is the point of center of mass of the rigid body. Let me say that is a C, and this is some point just like A, let me say. Okay. And one axis is passing through the center of mass. One of the axis is passing through the center of mass, and the other axis is passing parallel to the center of mass, passing through some other point in the rigid body, right? And the perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes is, let me say, this is x is the perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes, right? And the moment of inertia of the rigid body about the axis passing through the point A will be I, let me say, and the moment of inertia of the rigid body about the axis passing through the center of mass is IC, let me say, right? And you can relate IC, and by the way, you can also consider M is the mass of the rigid body. M is the mass of the rigid body. Okay. Now, this moment of inertia and mass of the rigid body, and so now let us see the statement of the parallel axis theorem. The theorem says the moment of inertia of any rigid body about any axis is equal to the sum of the moment of inertia of the rigid body about the parallel axis. to the first axis, and passing through the center of mass, and passing through the center of mass, and the product of mass of the rigid body, mass of the rigid body, and the square of perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes. Two parallel axes. So this is the statement of the parallel axis theorem. The moment of inertia of any rigid body about any axis is equal to the sum of, that is the plus of, the moment of inertia of the rigid body about the parallel axis to the first axis and passing through the center of mass, and the product of the plus of this and the plus of IC and mx square. Mx square is the product of the mass of the rigid body and the square of perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes. If you understand this statement, based on this statement, you can say, you can find the results of finding the moment of inertia of different bodies about any other axis, right? By applying these two theorems, particularly this is the theorem of perpendicular axis theorem and this is the parallel axis theorem. Using these two theorems, we can find the moment of inertia about different axes. We will see its applications first of all. Okay. First of all, let me take a ring. As usually, we have considered a ring in the previous class also. Let me consider the ring first. Okay. What's the ring? The ring is, this is the ring. This is the ring. Okay. For this ring, the two axes, let us consider. This is the axis passing through the center of mass and perpendicular to its plane. This is, let me say, I naught. And this I naught value previously we have seen, that is mr square. M is the mass of the body and r is its radius. That's what we saw in the last class. Okay. Now, let us consider its moment of inertia about one axis passing, let us say this is one axis and perpendicular to this axis, this is one more axis. This is one more axis, right? Let me say this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. And by the way, let us say this is the z-axis. Okay. And the moment of inertia about x-axis is ix, and about y-axis is, let me say, iy, and about the z-axis it will be iz. According to perpendicular axis theorem, we can relate these moments of inertia as iz equal to ix plus iy, and these ix and iy are the moments of inertia about the axis passing through diameters, right? Every diameter is symmetric. That's why ix is I diametric, let me say, iy also I diametric, let us say. So you can write ix and iy, and iz is, what is the iz? Iz is nothing but I naught, the self axis, the natural axis, the own axis, right? So you can write them now as I naught is equal to I diametric axis plus I diametric axis. Both are same. So this implies the moment of inertia about the axis passing through the diameter of the ring in the plane of the ring is I diametric is equal to I naught by 2. Why? Because ID plus ID will be equal to 2ID, right? So what is the value of I naught? We got it as a mr square. So this will be mr square by 2 is the moment of inertia about the diametric axis, right? Now let us consider one more axis for the ring now. That is just like now the ring is passing through one of the tangent and parallel to the self axis. This is I tangent parallel to self axis. Let me write IT naught. Using the parallel axis theorem, what is the perpendicular distance between these two axes? That is R itself, radius, right? So using the parallel axis theorem, the moment of inertia about the tangential axis perpendicular to the plane of the ring IT naught is equal to I naught plus mx square. X is R square. And I naught is given as mr square. So that will be mr square plus mr square. And that is equal to 2 mr square is the moment of inertia, right? Or if you consider one of the axes parallel to the diametric axis, this axis also we will consider parallel to the diametric axis. We will consider the axis is parallel to diameter, parallel to the diameter. This is tangential axis parallel to diameter. So let me write the expression for the moment of inertia about tangential axis parallel to diameter is equal to, and what is the perpendicular distance between these two axes? This is also equal to R itself. So you can write it as I tangential about diametric axis parallel to diametric axis in the plane of the ring is equal to I diameter plus mx square. That is equal to I diameter is mr square by 2 plus mr square. So the factor 1 by 2 plus 1 will be 3 by 2 mr square is the result. So what are the various results you got here regarding the application of parallax theorem and perpendicular axis theorem? The diametric axis moment of inertia is mr square by 2. The tangential axis parallel to self axis is 2 mr square, and the tangential axis parallel to diameter is 3 by 2 mr square. These are the results we can notice regarding the results of the ring. Okay, now we will go in the same way. We will go for another object that will be the disk. Okay, we'll consider the disk now. Let me draw a disk somehow like this. Being it is a disk, the mass is there everywhere, and by the way, let us say the mass of the disk is m, mass of the disk is m, and I'm sorry, mass of the disk is m, and its radius is r, is the radius of the disk. Okay, about different axes, let us find its moments of inertia values. Okay, so for that, let me take first of all, we will the axis, self axis we will consider first. This is the self axis. About the self axis, the moment of inertia I naught is equal to, in the previous class we have seen its result, that will be mr square by 2. This is a well known result. I naught is mr square by 2 for a disk. What is this object? The object is the disk here. Okay, it is the disk, right? Now let us apply this about different axes. However, we have applied it for the ring to find the diametric axis. The moment of inertia about the diameter is given by any diameter you consider. This is the diametric axis. The moment of inertia about the diametric axis is ID, let us say. So I diametric is equal to I naught divided by 2. What is the value of I naught? You got here. That is mr square by 2 by 2. How much? Mr square by 4. Right. And one more axis we will consider here. That is, one more axis is, let us consider one more axis. That is the axis tangent to the disk and parallel to self axis. So the perpendicular distance between these two axes will be r. Let me say this moment of inertia is I tangential parallel to self axis. So I tangential parallel to self axis is equal to I naught plus mx square. Substitute the values. I naught value is mr square by 2 plus m into x is r square. So this becomes 3 by 2 mr square. Okay. And we can also consider one more axis, that is parallel to the one more axis we will consider here. That axis is parallel to the diameter and passing through one of the tangents, right? So here also the perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes will be r itself. So this, the tangential axis parallel to the diameter. So the moment of inertia about the tangent passing through the tangent point and parallel to diametric axis is equal to I diametric axis plus mx square. That is equal to, it will be how much? M r square by 4 plus x value is r itself. So this becomes 5 by 4 mr square. So most important is disk. So whatever the points we have to remember regarding the disk, you see the moment of inertia about the self axis is mr square by 2, that is as usual, and about the diametric axis will be mr square by 4. About the tangential axis parallel to self axis will be 3 by 2 mr square. About the tangential axis parallel to one of the diameters will be 5 by 4 mr square. These are the results we have to notice regarding the disk. Okay. The same way we will apply the theorems of moment of inertia in the case of a hollow sphere, right? Let us consider hollow sphere. So the moment of inertia value in the case of the hollow sphere, let me say this is the hollow sphere, and its mass is as usually m is its mass and r is its radius. R is its radius. Now the axis, consider one of the axis passing through the diameter, and the moment of inertia about the axis passing through the diameter is, let me say I naught is equal to 2 by 3 mr square for hollow sphere. This is the result already we have seen in the last class. Okay. The self axis moment of inertia of hollow sphere is 2 by 3 mr square. Okay. Now let us consider one axis parallel to the self axis and passing through the tangent. The tangent is somewhere here. This is the tangent about this axis, tangential axis, right? The moment of inertia about this tangential axis parallel to self axis. Let us calculate. Okay. So the moment of inertia about the tangential axis is given by parallel axis theorem. So the perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes will be as usually r. So this will be E2 by 3 mr square is the moment of inertia about the axis passing through center of mass. This is the center of mass plus m r square. So what is its value? 5 by 3 m square. So this is the result you can remember regarding the hollow sphere. The moment of inertia about tangential axis is 5 by 3 mr square. Okay. Now let us see the same way we will go for solid sphere. Let us consider it to be a solid sphere. Solid sphere. In the case of the solid sphere, what is the difference between hollow sphere and solid sphere? The only thing is the inside also there will be mass. That means the mass is everywhere. Okay. This is the solid sphere. Okay. Inside there is no hollow. And let us suppose its mass is m and its mass is m. Sorry, its mass is m and its radius will be r. R is its radius. Okay. So what is the moment of inertia about self axis? Already we saw in the last class. The moment of inertia about the self axis, that is passing through the diameter, will be about the diametric axis. Its moment of inertia is given by id is equal to, or I naught, let us say I naught is equal to 2 by 5 mr square. Okay. And if you consider an axis which is passing parallel to the self axis of the disk, this is parallel and passing through the tangent. So this is the moment of inertia about a tangential axis parallel to self axis, right? So the moment of inertia about the tangent passing through parallel to self axis is given by I naught plus mx square. And by the way, here also the value of x will be r itself. So you can substitute the values. 2 by 5 mr square plus mr square will be how much? 7 by 5 mr square. So this is the result we have to remember regarding the solid sphere. Okay, about the self axis moment of inertia is 2 by 5 mr square, and about tangential axis it will be 7 by 5 mr square. Okay. So these are the results we have to notice regarding the solid sphere and hollow sphere. Okay. And in the same way, let us go for a thin uniform rod now. Okay. Let's consider a thin uniform rod. Thin uniform rod we will consider. Thin uniform rod means, how can you find the thin uniform rod? The rod will be something like this. This is the thin uniform rod, let us suppose. And its mass is m. M is its mass. M is its mass. And its length is L. The total length of the rod is L. Okay. And you consider one of the axes that is passing through the center and perpendicular to the length of the rod is called equatorial axis. Equatorial axis. Moment of inertia about the equatorial axis is given by ml square by 12. This result also we have seen in our last class. Moment of inertia of a thin uniform rod about the equatorial axis will be ml square by 12. Now let us calculate its value about the axis passing through one of the ends. This is one of the ends. About this axis, moment of inertia is supposed to be found. And perpendicular distance between these two axes is given by, the perpendicular distance between these two axes is given by L by 2, half of the length. Okay. So I is equal to, using the parallel axis theorem, this will be IE plus mx square. What is the value of IE? ml square by 12 plus m into x is L by 2 whole square. That is equal to ml square by 12 plus ml square by 4. On taking LCM, you will get 12 is the LCM. This is 1 plus 3 into ml square, and on simplifying, 4 3s are, so this will become ml square by 3 is the moment of inertia of the thin uniform rod about the axis passing through one of the ends and perpendicular to its length is given like this. Okay. Using these theorems, we can go for some other objects as well. They are hollow cylinder and solid cylinder as well. Okay. Let us go for a hollow cylinder. Hollow cylinder. Hollow cylinder means we know the moment of inertia of hollow cylinder is supposed to be found. To find the hollow cylinder moment of inertia, let me draw the hollow cylinder, and this is one of the base, and this is another base, and the length is supposed to be like this. And this is the way you can draw its length. This is the hollow cylinder. Okay. And its radius is, let me say, its radius, this is the axis of the cylinder, and the radius of the cylinder is, let me say, r, its radius, and the total mass of the cylinder is m. Okay. And the length of the cylinder will be, here to here, the length of the cylinder will be, say, L is the length of the cylinder. Okay. So in this case, let us have to find the moment of inertia about different axes. First of all, let me take the equatorial axis. This is called the equatorial axis. The axis, this is the axis passing through the diameter and passing through the center of mass. This is called the equatorial axis, IE, is equal to, is given by m r square by 2 plus m L square by 12. It is a ring configuration, and this is the rod configuration. Two configurations will be added up here. Okay. And in the same way, the moment of inertia about the self axis, is given by I naught, let us say, that is equal to mr square. It is exactly the ring configuration, right? This is one result, and this is another result. And in the same way, if you project one more axis which is parallel to the equatorial axis and passing through one of the ends is concerned, this is the axis, right? This is the axis. Let us consider this axis is parallel to equatorial axis and passing through one of the ends. About this axis, the I is given by mr square by 2 plus This I value is mr square by 2 plus ml square by 3. This result also we can get from a rod configuration and ring configuration. Okay. So these are the results we have to remember regarding the moment of inertia of the objects of the hollow cylinder, about self-axis, about the equatorial axis, mr square by 2 plus ml square by 12, and about the axis passing through one of the ends, and perpendicular to the rod will be mr square by 2 plus ml square by 3. Okay. In the same way, we can go for a solid cylinder as well. What is the solid cylinder? What is the difference between hollow cylinder and solid cylinder? Okay, that's what let us come to find out. Okay, the difference between solid cylinder and hollow cylinder is concerned. Solid cylinder means it is nothing but the axis, the mass lies everywhere. The mass lies everywhere, inside, outside. Okay, so this is one of the base, and the same base will be there and somewhere else also, and this base will be somewhere here, and these two bases are to be enveloped with the edges. This is the curved surface actually, and the one more edge is taken somehow like this. It is another edge. Okay, and this is all about the shape of the solid cylinder. And solid cylinder means the mass lies everywhere, right? The mass being the mass lies everywhere. The mass is there everywhere, inside and outside, and the bases everywhere the mass is there. Okay, and suppose its mass is m, and its radius also, this is the axis, this is all the axis, and this is the radius as usually r it is. Okay, this is the solid cylinder. Okay, now this is the solid cylinder. Solid cylinder. Okay, right. For this solid cylinder, this is the self axis. About the self axis, the moment of inertia will be in disk configuration mode. So I naught is equal to m r square by 2. And the equatorial axis I am considering here. About the equatorial axis, the moment of inertia will be I equatorial is equal to m r square by 4 according to disk configuration plus m l square by 12 according to rod configuration. Okay, and by the way, L is the length of the cylinder, solid cylinder. Okay, L is the length of the solid cylinder. That's what also we can specify it here. Previously we saw the hollow cylinder and solid cylinder. Hollow cylinder means only on the surface there will be mass. So the moment this is called self axis, this is called self axis. I think you can understand that is passing along its axis, and this is the equatorial axis perpendicular to self axis and passing through diameter, that is the equatorial axis, and this is the axis passing through one of the ends and parallel to equatorial axis. About these three axes, self axis, equatorial axis, axis passing through one of the end. These three results we must remember, right? So about the self axis, it is mr square, and about equatorial axis, this will be mr square by 2 plus ml square by 12. Mr square by 2 is in accordance with the ring configuration. For the ring, moment of inertia of axis passing through diameter it is. Okay, and it is moment of it is a rod configuration, equatorial axis of the rod. Previously also we saw this is the rod, this is the equatorial axis, right? Equatorial axis, what is the moment of inertia? Ml square by 12. Here also you see ml square by 12. So this is rod configuration formula. Okay. So at about one of the ends means this is mr square by 2 ring configuration, ml square by 3 rod configuration. Previously also we saw about the for the rod about axis passing through one of the ends will be ml square by 3. The same result we are applying here also. Okay. So ring configuration, rod configuration. Here also ring configuration, rod configuration. And self axis is concerned only ring configuration. Okay. Why? Because if you see in this direction along the axis, it appears as a ring only. Yes or no? You can't see all this peripheral surface. So this all only the ring is appeared to be seen along the axis. That's why it will be mr square for a hollow cylinder. If you see solid cylinder, in the same way you think and logically you can understand. This is the equatorial axis. This is the self axis. This is the axis passing through one of the ends. So self axis means for the disk configuration will come for solid cylinder. Why? Because inside also mass is there. That's why it will be mr square by 2. And equatorial axis means ring disk configuration, diameter, moment of inertia will be mr square by 4. And it is a rod configuration. Previously also we saw rod configuration in the case of the hollow cylinder and solid cylinder. That will be ml square by 12. And about the axis passing through one of the ends means this will be ml square by 3 rod configuration, mr square by 4 is a ring configuration. Okay. So solid cylinder or hollow cylinder you consider, you have to add a ring configuration and rod configurations. With that help, you can find the moment of inertia about different axes. Other than these three significant axes, if any other axis is supposed to be found, then you have to use parallel axis theorem and perpendicular axis theorem separately. Okay. Now we will go for the next important object, regular object, that is thin rectangular lamina. Rectangular lamina means it is a rectangular plate. We will consider is the length and it is the breadth, and length is L, breadth is B, and its mass is M, let us say. And rod configuration you apply about the axis equatorial to the length will be ml square by 12. Equatorial to the breadth means the moment of m b square by 12. Okay. And you apply the perpendicular axis theorem and you consider one axis passing through center perpendicular to its plane. This is self axis of the rectangular lamina. So according to perpendicular axis theorem, I naught is equal to Ix plus Iy. So what is Ix and Iy? X will be d square by 12 plus m L square by 12. Or you can simplify and be written as I naught is equal to m by 12 in common d square plus L square. Okay. So this is how you can find the moment of inertia of the thin rectangular lamina about different axes. Equatorial about length, equatorial about breadth. The sum of these two results only will be the self axis moment of inertia. And in the same way, you can go for some other axis also here, that is the axis passing through one of the ends, the axis passing through one of the ends parallel to breadth will be how much? M L square by 3. And the moment of inertia about an axis passing through one of the ends, here actually there is no gap, is passing through the edge, and parallel to length perpendicular to breadth will be how much? M B square by 12. These results also you can notice. These are also very important and you can remember these results as well. Okay. ML square by 3 and M B square by, I'm sorry, this is not 12, it will be 3, MB square by 3. M B square by 3 it is. mb square by 3. Okay. Okay. Right. So this is rectangular lamina. And in the same way, let us go for a square lamina. Square lamina, let us consider. What is the square lamina? Square lamina. Square lamina means, what is the meaning of a square? Length and breadth are same. That is only the difference between square. This is the square plate. Okay. Length and breadth are same. Right. So being it is a square lamina, its length is, its side is, let me say, some A is its side. And you consider different axes according to rod configuration. Okay. According to rod configuration, the moment of inertia passing through center of mass parallel to the one of the sides is given by m. Let me say this is ix equal to m a square by 12. And in the same way, you consider the axis passing through center of mass and about to y axis. Iy is equal to again m a square by 12. Here length and breadth are same. And now you consider the axis which is passing through the center of mass but perpendicular to its plane, I naught. Using perpendicular axis theorem, I naught is equal to Ix plus Iy. Ix and Iy both are m a square by 12 plus m a square by 12 will be how much? M a square by 6 is I naught. So these are the results you can remember regarding the moment of inertia of thin square lamina. Ix and Iy will be same. It is symmetric about any axis passing through the diameter, passing through the plane and passing through the center. But about self axis, which is axis perpendicular to the plane, if the axis passing perpendicular to the plane is concerned, the moment of inertia is going to be ma square by 6. So these are the different objects we have seen, and you just to see all the objects what we have covered. It is a hollow cylinder, solid cylinder, thin uniform rod, and hollow sphere, solid sphere, and disc. And for the ring, how we have applied the parallel axis theorem and perpendicular axis theorem, right? For a and independently as a standard body, thin uniform rod, hollow sphere, solid sphere about regular axis, ring and disc about regular objects, and the basic idea of the moment of inertia for discretely distributive mass and for the point distributive mass we have seen so far. Okay. So now let us go for the fixed torque and equilibrium of the bodies. We will see now. Okay. We'll go for the idea of the torque and equilibrium of rigid bodies. Torque and equilibrium of rigid bodies we will see. Okay. Basically, first of all, we should understand what is the torque. The torque is represented by tau bar It is a vector, it is a pseudo vector, and is given by r bar cross f bar. This is the torque. This is the torque. Okay. So the torque is the crossing vector of r bar. The basic idea of the torque is tau bar is equal to r bar cross f. R bar is position vector. To understand the very idea of the torque, let me consider a rigid lamina, right? Let me consider some rigid lamina, right? In this rigid lamina, let us suppose this is a rigid lamina, right? And it's some point is pivoted. Some point here is pivoted. Pivoted means it is fixed. About this axis, the body is about to be rotated. This is the point O, let me say. Okay. About this point O, about this point O, let me consider some point here, that is, say P. O is a pivoting point, and pivoting point to any other point, this is a position vector, say r bar. Because of this torque, let us have to assign some directions here. This is r bar, this is f sine theta, yes or no? So the magnitude of the torque can be written as the tau bar, its magnitude is equal to r into f sine theta. Okay, this is the way you can find the torque. In torque in vector form, torque in the scalar form, and general formula, scalar formula for the scalar form expression for the torque, and the torque in the vector direction, unit vector form. The torque is written into these many forms. And equilibrium, let us also have to consider what is equilibrium. Equilibrium means rotational equilibrium. If net force is zero, that is called translational equilibrium. If net torque is zero, that is called rotational equilibrium. Let us concentrate on the point rotational equilibrium. Let us understand now. Okay, what is the rotational equilibrium? Okay, for suppose rotational equilibrium means the net sigma of the sum of the torques must be zero. Net torque must be zero. This is called rotational equilibrium. Let us understand this point with some illustrations. Okay, for example, let me consider some rod. I'll consider some rod, and this is the rod of mass m, and its length is L. The length of the rod is L, let us say, and this rod is suspended by two strings. This rod is suspended by two strings from its ends, and it is being suspended from a rigid support. Okay, being it is a mass is m, it's a gravitational weight acting through center of mass, that is acting downward, mg, and this is a tension T1, and it is the tension T2, let us say. If the two threads, the orientation of the two threads are symmetric about the mg, then tension T1 and T2 will be same. That is, if it is symmetric, in this case, being both the threads are passing through the ends, T1 is equal to T2. Okay, this point also you can understand. So sum of the upward forces equal to sum of the downward forces. That is, T1 plus T2 is equal to mg. These are the upward forces, and this is the downward force. Upward force is equal to downward force. This is called translational equilibrium. Translational equilibrium means net force will be zero. Okay, it is called translational equilibrium. And T1 equal to T2, and let us say both values equal to something like T. Then T1 plus T2 will be 2T is equal to mg, and T tension in each string will be mg by 2, mg divided by 2. And rotational equilibrium also let us have to understand. To understand the rotational equilibrium in this scenario, let us consider about a reference point we must have to select. Let me select the reference point is passing through this end. Okay, this is the end A and this is the end B, let me suppose. Okay, so about end A is concerned, the torque due to T1 will be 0, torque due to mg will be clockwise, r bar plus f bar will be clockwise, and torque due to T2 will be anti-clockwise. This clockwise torque and anti-clockwise torque will be same here. Okay, that point let us realize here. Okay, so what is the torque now? Mg into this perpendicular distance will be L by 2. This is clockwise torque, is equal to anti-clockwise torque will be the force is T2 into the length will be L. Okay, now both sides you can cancel the L value, and what is the T2 value here? This implies T2 is equal to mg by 2. So whatever the result you got here, that will be proved here. And in the same way, you can find T1 by taking the reference point passing through the point B. You consider the point B as a reference. So far as B is concerned, the torque due to mg will be anti-clockwise and the torque due to T1 will be clockwise. So this is the analysis regarding about point A. About A means about, this is the point about A, and this is about B. Okay, about B is concerned, mg into L by 2 is anti-clockwise torque is equal to T1 into L, and in the same way you can cancel the L. After cancelling the L, you will get T1 is equal to again mg by 2. So T1 equal to mg by 2 and T2 also will be mg by 2. Okay, so these are the results you can get using the rotational equilibrium. Okay, if any rigid body that is a translationally in equilibrium, then rotationally also in equilibrium, then the body is said to be in both the equilibria. Okay, so now let us go for the rotation about a fixed axis. We will see now rotation about a fixed axis. And by the way, before going to rotation about the fixed axis, let us have to find out the Newton's second law of motion for rotation. Newton's second law of motion for rotation. Newton's second law of motion for rotation. Let us see. Okay. That is, in the first law we are talking about the force. Now we are talking about the torque. The net external torque tau is equal to rate of change of angular momentum. Angular momentum. When we are talking about the force, the net force equal to rate of change of linear momentum. Instead of linear momentum, now angular momentum will be coming into consideration. Okay. And so the net external torque, tau external, is given by d by dt of L bar. L bar is angular momentum. Okay. And angular, what is the L bar? Is angular momentum. Angular momentum. This is the very fundamental expression regarding the torque, relation between torque and angular momentum. Okay. Right. Angular momentum can also be written into different forms as angular momentum L bar can be written as R bar cross P bar for a point mass, and it can also be written as I omega for a rigid body. Okay. This is the expression for angular momentum for a translational motion. For a translational motion, and this is the expression for angular momentum for rotational motion. Rotational motion. Okay. So the translational motion, rotational motion, if some bodies will describe only translational motion, some bodies will describe only rotational motion, and sometimes we may come across the combination of translational and rotational motion, that is called rolling motion. Okay. Now let us see the application of these things. Okay. So that's why the total angular momentum, in fact, for any rolling motion, the total angular momentum for rolling body, angular momentum for a rolling body, rolling rigid body, rolling body can be written as I omega bar plus R bar cross PCM bar. I omega is called the angular momentum by virtue of pure rotation about center of mass. In the center of mass frame, we can define this term I omega. Yes or no? And this is the ground frame, the moment of inertia of center of mass in ground frame. In ground frame. This is in center of mass frame. Okay. So the moment of inertia, the angular momentum is to be calculated as two perspectives. That is, one is the moment of inertia about the center of mass frame and the moment of inertia of center of mass in the ground frame. Okay. This is the total idea of angular momentum. And moreover, external torque is rate of change of angular momentum. Okay. So this is the way we can treat the net external torque. And whenever net external torque on the system is absent, when the net external torque will be absent, that will be zero, that implies dl by dt will be zero provided L bar, that is angular momentum of the system, will be constant. Constant. This is called law of conservation of angular momentum. Law of conservation of angular momentum. Right. Law of conservation of angular momentum. Okay. Whenever net external torque is absent on the system, total angular momentum is constant. This is called law of conservation of angular momentum. Okay. Its applications are far and wide, and in most of the competitive exams, the question based on this will be asked. That is some very important applications we will see now in this class. Okay. Applications of law of conservation of angular momentum. Law of conservation of angular momentum we will see. For example, I will consider a disk. I will consider a disk. Disk means, what is a disk? Disk means the mass is m and its radius is r. Its mass is m and its radius will be something like r. And this disk is rotating about its self-axis. The disk is rotating about self-axis with angular velocity omega naught, let us suppose. With angular velocity, initial angular velocity omega naught. Then moment of inertia about self-axis is given by m r square by 2. About self-axis we saw, yes or no? This is I naught. And now, one of the point mass, small m, one of the point mass, small m, is moving in this path. Okay. And when this point is moving in this path, and this point mass m is moving from here. This m is moving from here, and in this direction it is moving, and whenever it sticks this point, and the point mass and the disk both are rotating together, then angular velocity changes. The angular velocity changes to omega naught to omega, and I value also changes from I naught to I. Then there is no net external torque on the system. Being the net external torque on the system is 0, angular momentum is constant. That is the idea of law of conservation of angular momentum. So if you apply angular momentum now, previously the angular momentum is I naught omega naught, and finally this is I omega. Now you substitute these values. What is the I naught? M r square by 2, and omega naught is given as omega naught, equal to, what is the I now? Mr square by 2 is the moment of inertia of the disk. In addition to disk, this mass is sticked to this point. Yes or no? So being this mass is sticked here, the moment of inertia of the mass about this axis is mr square. This capital M is the mass of the disk, small m is the mass of this point mass, mr square into omega. So now what is the value of this omega? We have to find. Now equating these two equations, two terms, we can get, in all the terms, by the way, you can cancel r square everywhere. So now it can be simplified for omega as m omega naught by 2 divided by m by 2 plus small m. This becomes divided by capital M plus to small m is the expressed angular velocity. So initially the angular velocity is omega naught. Now the angular velocity is 2m omega naught by m plus 2m. Using the application of law of conservation of angular momentum, we have just equated I naught omega naught in the angular momentum before collision. It is called angular collisions, rotational collisions. After collision, the angular momentum is I omega. Okay. And in the same way, we can also understand some more application. For example, let us consider a rod. A rod. I am taking some rod here. Some rod we will consider. This is the rod. Okay. And this rod is stationary on the smooth horizontal surface. Let us suppose the rod is stationary on the smooth horizontal surface. Okay. And mass of the rod is, say m is the mass of the rod, and its length is L. What is the length? Length is L. Okay. On smooth horizontal surface, it is at rest. Now, one bullet of mass small m, one small bullet of mass m, of mass m, is moving with a speed, it is moving with a speed u, and collides and comes to rest. After colliding, it has come to rest. Whenever the bullet has collided, it has come to rest. The bullet has come to rest now. Okay. Because of this collision, the rod starts to rotate about its self-axis, and the rod center of mass starts translation with velocity of center of mass VCM, and it starts rotating also. The rod starts to rotate also. That means the rod, after some time, this rod starts to rotate now, starts to rotate about its self-axis. It is rotating now. It is rotating in anti-clockwise direction with certain speed, and at the same time, along with the rotation, it is describing the translational motion as well. Okay, it is describing the translational motion as well. So what is the, now we are supposed to, what is the angular velocity after the collision and what is the translational velocity, both we are supposed to find. Okay. So by applying the conservation of angular momentum, we can say the angular momentum before collision, from law of conservation of angular momentum, from law of conservation of angular momentum, we can say any momentum before collision is mu into L by 2 is equal to, after the collision, the angular momentum about to center of mass omega, the about the center of mass, the rotational velocity is omega, that is given by I omega. Yes or no? And you write the moment of inertia value there, mu into L by 2 is equal to I is ml square by 12 into omega. Now you can cancel m on both the sides, then the L also square can be cancelled and 2 cancels this by 6 times. Then with what angular velocity it is rotating? The angular velocity with which it is rotating is given by omega is equal to 6u divided by 6u divided by L is the angular velocity with which it is rotating now. Okay. So what angular velocity it is rotating? The rotational velocity now is 6u by L. Okay. Now we are supposed to find the translational velocity after the collision. How do you find translation velocity? Apply the conservation of linear momentum. Okay. Total momentum apply from law of conservation of linear momentum. What is the P bar? Linear momentum. You apply the conservation of linear momentum, that will be mu is the momentum before collision. After collision, it will be capital M into VCM. Okay. So that means the velocity of center of mass after the collision is given by mu divided by capital M. Okay, so these are the results. You can see these are very interesting points, very practical points. It describes the combination of translational and rotational motions there. So these results are very, very important, and most possible cases of getting the questions from the exams, right? So be connected to all these concepts, and this is the law of conservation of angular momentum and linear momentum. And now this is the torque when external torque is absent. These are the points we discussed, and applications, 2 applications we saw in the case of the disc and in the case of the rod, and before that we saw what are all the points we have seen so far. From today's class we will see these are all the points we saw now. Regarding the moment of inertia onwards, we will see, right? Rigid body dynamics, point mass, distributive mass. Distributive mass is again of discretely distributive mass and continuously distributive mass. And for discretely distributive mass, moment of inertia calculation and radius of gyration, and ring, disc, hollow sphere, solid sphere, thin uniform rod. About regular axis we found perpendicular axis theorem, parallel axis theorem and their statements, and application of perpendicular axis theorem and parallel axis theorem about different axes, how to find the moment of inertia in the case of the ring, disc, hollow sphere, solid sphere, thin uniform rod, hollow cylinder, thin rectangular lamina, square lamina, and torque and equilibrium position of the bodies, torque in various forms, and rotational equilibrium about different axes and its realization. We saw here Newton's second law of motion, angular momentum, and its conservation in the absence of the external torques with applications we have seen, right? So stay connected with all these points, and the very, very important points. And now we will go with the next session. We will continue. Stay connected, make best use of all these classes. Thank you one and all.